Also, along with F for focus on the future, is that you have the ability to forgive, which does not mean that you approve of someone's actions. You know, it's one of those things kind of like unconditional love. I mean, you know, your kids can screw up or your employees can screw up, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to love them or like them any less. You don't approve of some of the things that they've done, but it still doesn't change your feeling or your relationship with them. You have the ability to focus on the current issues and not drag up or pick on old wounds. How many of y'all are married in here? Okay. So, you know, it's one of those things about fighting fair, you know. You don't drag up. Like my wife, she can remember what I was wearing, what I did 28 years ago at 2 o'clock in the afternoon if I did something wrong. And she has an outstanding memory. I can barely remember what I did the day before. But you have the... Well, they get hysterical and historical. Right, right, very good. And, you know, I don't want to be sexist, but, you know, it's the truth. Okay. Not that men are perfect either. Anyway, you have the ability to focus on the current issues, not dredge up old things from the past or pick on old wounds. How many folks scored 15 or higher on that? Focus on the future. Oh, most of the married folks didn't raise their hand. That's what I thought. Okay. Okay, good. No. But focusing on the future is a key mediator trait. O stands for open up options for mutual gains. It means that you have the ability to listen with an open mind to alternative options. You know, many times we go into a situation and we have fixed in our mind exactly how we want this to work out without ever even considering what the other person's interests are. You know, when we talked about interest-based versus position-based yesterday, we talked about, you know, that many times we don't even notice or know what our own interests are. We think we know what they are, but as well as knowing what our own interests are, we need to prophesize, or we need to think about what could the possible interest of the other side be? Why are they acting this way? What is it that they need out of this? Not want, but what is it does the other side need out of this relationship? Okay? But you have the ability to be open-minded and listen to alternative options. You know, that's another key reason I like having a co-mediator. Because many times, you know, especially when you've done so many of these and you've seen so many similar types of cases, you already have formulated in your mind a path you want to steer these people down by asking questions. And so sometimes my co-mediator will be asking some questions I don't even know where they're coming from on this. And so we'll take a break and I'll say, that's an interesting line of questions. Where are you headed with this? And they might say, well, I was thinking that maybe the real issue had to do with X, Y, Z over here. And it didn't even occur to me that that might be the situation. As a matter of fact, I had a co-mediator with me one time. It was her very first, she had finished the training. She's an accountant by trade, very quiet. And she, about halfway through the mediation, she kind of tapped me on the side and said, can I ask a question? And I said, well, sure, ask. Because I figure, you know, there's almost hardly anything I can't overcome. You know, I mean, people could ask some really off-the-wall questions, and I figure I can overcome those if I need to. Anyway, she asked the question that resolved the issue, and I wasn't even thinking down those lines at all. And she asked this question, and was it because she was a woman, or coming from a different perspective, or just another human being sitting there, and had another set of eyes on it and another brain looking at it from a different point of view, and one that whose mind wasn't all cluttered with all these other experiences and mediations that I had had, because I was clearly focused on heading these people down a certain path, and I was wrong. And the question that she asked was right on point. And as a matter of fact, when they answered the question, the other side looked at him and said, I didn't realize that. And we had an agreement within about 10 minutes after she asked that question. Okay? So another advantage to having a co-mediator. How many scored 15 or higher on open options? Good, good. D stands for develop doables, or these stepping stones to action. Okay, remember we talked about taking baby steps. You have the ability to develop small steps that lead you closer to a mutually healthy decision on larger issues. Well, let's talk about that for just a second. Lots of times in the opening statement, people are going to talk about what they think the real issue is. And the other side, that's not even their problem. Their problem is something else. And so, you know, you need to take small advances or small steps, have small successes. Don't worry about trying to solve the big issue first. Focus on anything that you can agree upon, okay? Focus on anything that you can agree upon, as simple as it might be, because that's something that you can build upon. That's something that you can create these doables or these stepping stones. You view this mediation process or the cooperative process as the beginning, not the end. Once again, that's focusing on the future, not the past. How many folks scored 15 or higher on that? Okay, good. How about 10 or higher? Okay, good. Most everybody. M stands for make mutual benefit agreements. It means that you avoid win-lose situations where someone clearly feels like they win at the expense that someone clearly feels like they lost. Okay? Now, the mediation process doesn't necessarily mean that everybody wins equally. I mean, everybody might ultimately feel like they both lost, but in the process will win because they were able to reach a resolution. You have to be careful here, though, that you don't feel like that don't become a doormat, that you don't let people walk all over you. That you have the ability to yield to reason, not pressure. You have the ability to yield to reason and not pressure. And in this whole mediation process, what our goal is to focus on bringing people to reasonableness, not to exert pressure on them by saying, you know, locking the door and saying, you're not going to leave this room, or I'm not going to let you take a bathroom break, or I'm not going to let you go to lunch or dinner or whatever it is until we get this resolved. We're not going to work on exerting to coercion and pressure. We want to bring the people up to reasonableness. And we want to bring them up to reasonableness at their own pace. Sometimes it takes people a little bit longer to get up to the same level as all the parties. And let me give you an example of that. And even though this is not the family class, it's easier to talk about divorce cases sometimes. But you have on any conflict, and it doesn't have to be a divorce case, on any conflict, where action is being taken, where a lawsuit is filed, you have one party or the other that has reached a decision that enough is enough, and I'm going to take action. I'm going to file a lawsuit. So let's say in a divorce case, you've got poor old Bill and Sue. They've been my poor examples forever. You've got Bill who, over whatever period of time, the emotional levels and all the things in the environment that has happened to him, he has decided that, you know, I can't live in this situation anymore. I'm going to file for divorce. And so he goes and files for divorce. And, you know, he's already up here at this level, okay? Well, Sue gets served the papers. Sue gets served the divorce papers, and she's thinking, well, I thought we could work this thing out. I didn't realize that, you know, this was beyond redemption. This is beyond us making it work. And so it's going to take Sue, it may take her a week, a month, 2 years, 2.5 years to get on the same emotional level that Bill was already at here when he made the decision to file, okay? Just like on any complaint, whether it's an employee, employer, you know, whoever's taking the action they're already at this level, and it's going to take the other side a certain period of time. It may be a day, it may be a week, it may be a month, to get up to the same emotional level to be able to be on the same plane as the other party in order to be able to reach a level of reasonableness. And these are some of the things you need to understand when you're dealing with conflict. You're dealing with these folks is instead of jumping from the past to the future, you need to fill in the blanks. Okay? And by filling in the blanks, I'm talking about things like, how has your life changed since whatever action took place? What things have changed in your life? Okay, well, I've had to go out and get a better job. I've had to start looking for a job. I've had to find care for the kids. I've had to not be involved in all the social activities that I was. I've had to find a smaller home. I've had to move out of a home that I've always lived in to an apartment. All of these things. So you build up and help them get up to the same plane, same playing area. And that also helps the other side understand the effect that their actions have had on them. Okay? So what happens is whether it's a divorce case or whether it's an employment case, many times I see this in employment cases, and the lawyers want to jump too quick to, okay, what's it going to take to resolve this? How much do you want? Well, when in many times it's not a matter of how much do they want. Lots of times they haven't even thought about how much as in a dollar amount, as opposed to maybe all they wanted or needed was an apology. Lots of times you would be surprised at how many resolutions I get just with all they wanted was an apology. All they wanted was somebody to listen to them when nobody would pay attention to them in the past. Okay? So no matter what the case is, you want to make sure that everybody is on the same level playing field. And the way you do that's by asking questions. So you have the ability to make mutual benefit agreements. How many scored 15 or higher on this? Okay, 10 or higher? Good. The last section, and I think one of the most important sections, is X. And X just kind of stands for lots of stuff, but it stands for extra considerations. And the very first thing that it talks about here is that you have the ability to express anger constructively. You have the ability to express anger constructively. You understand that emotions are legitimate and communicate. And you have the ability to channel anger's energy. I mean, how important is that? To be able to use anger constructively. Once again, you have the ability to focus on the person. You have the ability to focus on the problem, not the person. And you believe that seeking a third-party facilitator, hello, that would be us, to help you work out a resolution. So many times people think, well, I don't need a mediator. I'm an adult. I can work this problem out. Counselors hear this. Well, where one side or the other says, well, I don't need a counselor. They need a counselor. I don't need a counselor. And so, much like this, counseling rarely works when you just have one side involved, just like mediation. Mediation, both parties have to agree to participate. And even if you can have a successful mediation so long as there's just a smidgen, just a touch of reasonableness buried somewhere deep inside someone's soul, then you could draw that out. Now, unfortunately, there are some people that don't have any hint of reasonableness in them, but it's your job as mediators to, if that exists somewhere, to draw that out, to draw that reasonableness out. How many scored 15 or higher on X? Okay, good. Okay, so that's the conflict resolution questionnaire and how you feel that you deal with conflict. And once again, it depends on the way you respond to these questions based upon the environment that you focused on. And just like any survey, any psychological questionnaire, it depends on how you responded, how honestly you responded to the questions without giving them too much thought.